Let me tell you how a life-changing accident led me here.
So as many of you guys know, I'm doing the Gary V Stand Store Challenge, and the assignment for this week was to tell our origin story. So, some of you know my origin story, some of you don't, so we're gonna tell it again. I grew up in Muncie, Indiana, which is a small town in Indiana. It's where Ball State is. At the age of, going into 7th grade, my dad passed away 2 weeks before school. So that left my mom and my sister to kind of figure things out. Me, my mom, and my sister to kind of figure things, what life was like after that. Losing a significant member of your family when you're that young had probably created a bunch of, not issues, but challenges that we weren't really ready for, including my mom. So it was just us. My grandma helped a lot. And luckily, my mom was in nursing school, so that was good. But what that did, it made me a much more independent person, made me, maybe worry about the future a little bit, and also made me a lot more self-reliant because I knew that, my mom was just trying to hold the household together. So I knew if I needed something, I'd have to do it pretty much on my own. And so that made me very independent. I worried about the Drakester, having, lost his dad at 2.5 or 3. So, he talked to him every day on FaceTime. And so he knew who his dad was, and he's never really known a father figure. So I'm Pop. And then his other grandparents who live here in Florida see him every weekend, and so they do a lot of stuff with him too. So he has 2 male figures for that, but it's always a concern. But I look back and think about how it made me probably optimistic as well, because I knew, nothing could be worse than what I was going through when I had to go into junior high, write those stupid biographies. My dad had just died, and 2 weeks before, and people knew my dad had died, and I was a shy kid at that time, fairly shy. So it was just, having people talk about what happened, and it was just because it was a car accident. It was a very sudden death. So it created its own challenges, but made me maybe be a little bit more outgoing, I guess. I don't know. But either way, it kind of shaped who I am now. I look back on it now and I realize, all those experiences made me who I am now. And while they were less than fun, at least I knew what the worst thing that, as far as I knew as a child, could happen. The other worst thing that could happen is I could have lost my mom too. I didn't. She's here now. And it probably is what kind of developed my entrepreneurial spirit. Before that, I was in Boy Scouts and selling light bulbs. I had a paper route because we were a middle class family, so we didn't have all kinds of money. So if I wanted something special or unique, I had to earn the money to do it myself. Even then, I loved travel. So the Boy Scouts always went on a big trip every summer, and my parents would give me half the money, but I had to raise the other half. That's probably where it all started. After that, enjoyed high school, went to college, got a BA in political science. I was going to be a lawyer. That didn't stick. I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. Went into sales. Started out as an entry-level sales rep, worked my way up to regional manager, and then went to national sales manager, director of sales, and finally VP of sales of a couple medical companies and a consumer packaged goods company. So from there, I opened up my own business called American Bamboo, where I was selling bamboo to farmers. And then in 2020, I had a horrific accident where I got hit head on by a drunk driver. We were both on the highway going 60 miles an hour. And that's kind of where my life changed. I had a traumatic brain injury, and it took me 2 years to work through all the surgeries. I've got plates in my back's messed up. I've got a double meniscus tear, which is why I limp. and couldn't really focus on work. Wasn't remembering things for like 2 years. So ran through all my savings for my retirement during that period. And the court case is still ongoing because Florida is crazy when it comes to insurance law. So that's kind of what's going on there. After about 3 years after the first trial, which we won, I decided to go ahead and open up my own business. I didn't want to open up a business doing what I love before the trial because I wasn't sure, how all that was going to end. I wasn't sure what my story was going to look like. And I still needed to heal and get better. So I was in no shape to run a business. But a week before the trial, I got my first photography lead where me and my daughter did that. It happened to coincide with my trial itself, so I could only do one day, and my daughter did the first day, which was very upsetting because it was my first client, my first paid client, and here I am sitting in court doing this stupid trial. It worked out. She did a great job, and everybody was happy. And then that's really where Kapture by CK really took off. I decided to niche down and focus on selling photography to real estate agents and listings. So I did that for 3 years. And then in January, I did that for 2 years. And then in January of 2025, the real estate market really started to get very bad. We had some condo issues and in Florida after the pandemic. It was just crazy the amount of sales were going on, and all I had to catch up was caught up. So things got, going a little slower. While I was very good at taking real estate pictures, it wasn't really a passion of mine. It wasn't what I really enjoyed. What I really enjoy is taking pictures of animals and wildlife and nature. And so in probably February, I decided to take all that time I had because I wasn't that busy anymore. And I started focusing on getting better at that and trying to improve my skills on that, and started making my YouTube channels about that and around that. And as I did that, I realized that I was trying to find content on how to start a YouTube channel, but there was nothing that I really could relate to, especially something that took someone from the very beginning of their YouTube channel and followed that whole journey, because you can only do that once. So I decided to document my YouTube channel, which is why I'm offering YouTube coaching. I'm doing social media coaching. I'm helping realtors grow their social media business. Plus, if you have an Airbnb, I do have a course that teaches you how to take better Airbnb listing pictures in less than a weekend. So you can increase your bookings in less than a weekend for $19.99. That's our strongest offer and most specific for what can help you immediately. I'm also coaching on how to take better Airbnb pictures, as well as helping others learn how to take better pictures, whether that be real estate pictures or wildlife pictures or nature pictures, as I travel around the world. So I've been to some amazing places, been to Puerto Rico, been this year, been to Puerto Rico, been to Obosh, Mexico to do a whale shark dive, went up to Maine, got some pictures and video there. In the meantime of all this, we've had some crazy stuff happen at home. I fell and hit my face, which is why I'm black and blue, on a seawall. I slipped on some algae. And so I had to deal with that for 4 days, thinking I need plates and screws and afraid that I had yet another concussion. My brain can't handle too much of that. And then 4 days after that, my daughter calls me. She's very upset. Her husband was killed in Brazil, which is, I have a grandson, Drake, who lives, my daughter and my grandson live with me. And the Drakester will be 3 in January. And so having to deal with that and all the repercussions of that. In fact, we're having to go to Brazil here in a couple weeks because she wants to have Drake meet the family. He's never been to Brazil. He doesn't have a passport. So right now we're trying to get him an emergency passport. The Death certificate needs to be transcribed in Brazil, and it has to have a raised seal. And then, so now we're going next week to go to the passport office to try and get an emergency passport for Drake. A week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, we found out that Drake has a dislocated hip, which is going to need surgery. He's got arthritis and scar tissue in his hip joint, and I'll throw the picture up on the video, but the hip is probably 10 to 20 millimeters off to one side and not in the socket. So you got to go in, clean all that stuff out, and then try and get it back in place. The problem with that is that for this to be a successful surgery, he's got to be immobile. So he's going to be in a body cast from his ankle to his first rib for 6 to 8 weeks. And then he's got braces and physical therapy. So it's going to be a long road. And in between all that, we're going to go to Brazil so he can meet the grandparents, because the great-grandparents are very, very old. They're in their late 80s. And I think my daughter's afraid they're not going to make it if we wait too long. So I'm doing that November 3rd through the 8th. And then Drake's surgery is November 10th. So there'll be a lot of stuff on those trips. The trip to Brazil. Right now we're in Orlando at the water park, at the Holiday Inn Water Park Hotel. Used to be Nickelodeon, but I thought I'd give you guys a little bit different view today. As I talk about my origin story, I'm doing the Gary Vee challenge. Had to start the Gary Vee challenge looking like this, which was not optimal. But it's what you have to do when you're trying to grow a business. We can't always choose the times we start and stop things. We can only react to what we have. And we can't give up. That's probably the most important thing. And you got to start. I was amazed. We had a Gary Vee call today, and the amount of people that still don't have stuff in their stand store, I just don't understand. If you pay all that money to try and get things going, I understand that you need to be comfortable with what's going on and everything, but let me tell you, the best way to know what you're going to do and how to do it is just by starting and learning, because learning by example and learning by doing is probably the most valuable lesson you're going to get. So that's what's going on here. So a lot going on. Currently I have my mom, who's 85, who will be 85 October 28th. We're taking her to Hawaii in February, and I'm going to stay a week and try and take some pictures of Maui. And so I'm going to try and see what I can't do to monetize all these pictures I'm taking and all these exotic places. And then, so she's going to Hawaii. Drake, my son, and daughter are also going to Hawaii. We're trying to make it a big trip. So that's after the surgery. So we got a pretty full next couple quarters. So I hope you guys enjoy the channel. If you could do me a favor and either ask me a question, if you have a question about what's going on or about what you should be doing. And if you like the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. It would really help. I'm trying to grow the channel as quick as possible so I can start doing live postings. I think that will really help the channel grow. It will allow me to answer questions live as you ask them, so you don't have to wait to get your answers. But, and finally, I'll put a link in my stand store below. If you are interested in coaching on how to start doing YouTube, or if you're a realtor and want to grow your social media presence, if you're a real estate photographer, want to take better real estate pictures, better pictures in general. Plus, if you have an Airbnb, I do have a course that teaches you how to take better Airbnb listing pictures in less than a weekend. So you can increase your bookings in less than a weekend for $19.99. That's our strongest offer and most specific for what can help you immediately. I'm also coaching on how to take better Airbnb pictures. So if you are interested in any of those things, please see my stand store. Let me know if you have any questions. But that's kind of my origin story. In the very beginning years, Muncie, Indiana was a great place to be a kid. We didn't know it at the time, but it was a great place to grow up. And so it had its own unique experiences. Thanks for your attention, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. Have a great one. Bye-bye.